Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have some simple yet fancy card ideas that I want to share with you. And I'm going to teach you how to make some very simple cuts in your card base to create these fancy cards. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have two different card ideas to share with you that feature a fancy kind of cut to our standard card base. So I just took a standard card base and I made a few cuts, and then I played with the leftover scraps from making those cuts in order to create this card. So when you create this fancy card, you will not have any leftover scraps from cutting up your card base. So super fun. Now, the cards in this video feature the Cottage Wreaths stamp set from Stampin Up. And I will also be using some of the country wreath dies, which coordinate with this particular stamp set. However, keep in mind you can use any supplies you have on hand to create this fancy design. Okay, so this is the card we're going to create today during the video. So the measurements I'm going to share with you are exactly the same to create this card or the autumn themed card. I really just changed out how I decorated the card. So let me show you how to create this fancy little design with very little effort. Okay, so let's talk about how to create the card base. So you're going to start with a piece of cardstock, whatever color you're using is fine. I'm using some garden green here. And this piece measures 4 1/4 inches by 11. And then I just scored it in the middle at 5 1/2 inches. So it just kind of creates your standard card base. It's just a top folding card. So you're going to take your top folding card and you're going to slide it into your paper trimmer so the 11-inch side is up towards the top of the trimmer. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to cut off a 1 1/2 inch section. So we'll cut that off. And then you're just going to slide this in a little bit more, and then you're going to cut off a 2 1/2 inch section. And so these two pieces will be used along with this to create our little fancy card design. Okay, so now that we have our cardstock pieces cut out, let me show you how this is going to go together. So this little 1 1/2 inch piece is going to just kind of rest on the bottom of the card here. And then this 2 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch piece is actually going to be the piece that we use to create our focal point for the center of the card. So I'm just going to set that piece to the side for a moment. And what we're going to do is we're going to decorate this first. So I just cut 4 different pieces of designer paper. So I'm using some of the Gingham Cottage Designer Series paper. And so these pieces are 1 1/4 by 4. So the first thing I'm going to do is just adhere one of these pieces to this piece down here on the bottom. So this is the bottom front of our card. So that will go here. And then this other piece, I'm just going to adhere to that top flap. So again, this is 1 1/4 by 4 inches. That's the size of the designer paper. So let's open this up, and I'm going to add some pieces on the inside. So I just cut a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock, and this is going to go on the inside of our card. And then I just have a little 1 inch piece. So this is 1 inch by 4. It's the same designer paper that I'm using to decorate the front of the card. So I'm just going to add this right away in the inside. So we are going to take this piece here, this little 1 1/2 by 4 1/4 inch piece, and I'm just going to set this on the bottom, but I'm going to move that over. So now we're going to decorate our center section here. So what I did is I just created a bunch of layers. So this piece is 2 1/2 by 4 1/4 inches. So I just cut a little piece of white cardstock, did a little embossing on it. So this piece is just a 1/4 inch smaller. So this is 2 1/4 by 4. So I'm just going to adhere this right to the center here. And then I cut a piece of black cardstock. So I wanted this piece to go, behind my garden green piece here. So I could create, 3 different layers. So the black piece is 2 3/4 by 4.5. So it just creates a fun little focal point for the card. So I'm going to bring back my card base. And so remember, this green piece was our middle section. The green piece was our middle section of the card. And so basically what I'm going to do is just turn it and create this fun little design. So I'm going to be adhering this piece just to the bottom and top little flaps here. So I want to line up my bottom piece so it's flush with the bottom of the card. And I'm just going to add some glue, a little bit of glue down here, and then a little bit of glue up here. And then I'm going to hold my pieces together. And then we'll just add this right in the center. So I just kind of eyeballed it. So we'll press that down. We'll give that a second to dry. All right, so I think that's dry. So now basically what we did is we just adhered that little extra piece. I adhered it to my card front. So I created my own little card front with all these little extra pieces that we cut off of our standard card base. So that's kind of what it looks like from the side. So pretty cool. Just a fancy little design, a great way to just kind of cut up your card base and just do something a little bit different with it. Okay, so now we are ready to decorate the cards. So I am going to be using some garden green ink, and I am going to stamp one of the wreath images from the Cottage Wreath stamp set. I'm just going to put it on this scrap piece of cardstock here, just white cardstock. And you can see how beautiful that image is. And there is a die in the set that coordinates with this image. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Okay, so I cut out the wreath using the coordinating die. And now I'm just going to adhere it to this little flap or this little focal point section that I created on my card front here. And then I'm just going to use a variety of different images and different die cuts from the Cottage Wreath stamp set just to kind of decorate this card. So I love this little bow. I cut out a couple little holly berries here, so I'm just going to add those. So you can just stamp these images and then cut them out with the coordinating die from the set. And then I'm just going to stamp a little greeting, a little Merry Christmas greeting. And so I'm using some real red ink, and this is just a 2 1/4 inch long piece of white cardstock, and it's about a 1/2 inch wide. So I'm just going to mat out my greeting with a piece of black cardstock. So the black cardstock is 1 3/4 by 3/4 inches. So it's 3/4 inches wide, but I just kind of find that that little bit of black just kind of really makes the greeting pop, especially when you're adhering it to some white cardstock. So I'm going to add a couple dimensionals on the back here. So there's our greeting. And then for the finishing touch, I'm just going to add a few rhinestones right next to my greeting here just to kind of make that pop. So that's the front of the card. That's what that looks like. Now we can finish decorating the inside of our card. So let's start on the bottom here. I'm just going to open this up so that you can kind of see what I did on the inside. So here's where I used up some more of that designer paper, because remember I cut out 4 pieces. So I put 2 on the front and I'm going to put 2 on the inside. So one's going to go up here on this little section. So again, this is 1 1/4 by 4. And then I'm just going to turn this so you can kind of see it here. And this other piece is the same size, so it's 1 1/4 by 4. So I just thought I would decorate the inside of the card with the same paper and just kind of cover that up. And then this little section here, which is the part where our focal point is on. So this is just the back. I just decided to kind of carry over the embossing onto the back. So this is a 2 1/2 by 2 1/4 inch piece of white cardstock, and I just used the Quatrefoil Tile embossing folder. Seems to be my kind of go-to embossing folder lately. And I'm just going to add this right here just to kind of dress this up. You don't have to do that, but I just wanted to make this card a little extra special and add some little embossing there. So that's the front. That's the top part of the card. And then here's the inside bottom part. So the next thing I did is just cut out one of these little bows again, using one of the dies from the set. So you can see this bow is just really beautiful. It's got a lot of detail in it. So I'm just going to add this bow right up here to this flap on the inside of the card. The next thing I did is I just cut 2 pieces of black cardstock. So these pieces are 1/4 inch wide and they are 4 inches long. And I just wanted to break up some of the green on the inside of this card. So I added 1 to the top of my white cardstock here, 1 to the top of my white cardstock. And then I'm just going to add this other piece down on the bottom here over my designer paper. So it goes right above my designer paper. So it just kind of breaks it up on the inside of the card. Okay, and then the last thing I'm going to do is just add a little sentiment on the inside of the card. So I'm actually using one of the sentiments from the Framed and Festive stamp set. So this is a new stamp set that just launched this month. And so I'm using one of the images from that particular set just to add a sentiment on the inside. All right, so that is what our card looks like. Okay, so now you know what the Christmas card looks like. So I also decided to create one using an autumn theme. So it's the exact same concept. The only difference is that instead of using, the red and green for Christmas, I just used some yellow and crumb cake and some more autumn, style colors to create this particular card. So the cool thing about the Cottage Wreaths is that you can create a variety of different cards for Christmas, autumn, even Halloween using this particular set. So, okay, so there you go. Now you have 2 different simple yet fancy card ideas that you can use with any supplies you have on hand. And if you enjoyed these card ideas, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the card shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.